tried to invade Earth. Now the Council knows fear. HFY Sci-Fi stories. You don't misplace 100 starships by accident. That was the first line I wrote in the ledger as the great crystal hall dimmed to war blue. 12 species took their places around the starlight table, robes whispering, crest folding tight, the room breathing like a living lung. Protocol demanded statistics. What we had were ghosts. Sue. Council Prime Vexar lifted a hand, emerald scales catching the chamber glow. Order. As if a word could anchor a galaxy that had just slipped. Reports arrived like falling glass. A scout wing gone to static over a quiet yellow star. Stealth craft that should have been invisible, seen. Biovessels that should have been uncatchable, caught. 7 civilizations, 1 radius on the chart, and every arrow pointed to the same blue-green world on the rim. Earth. We projected the transmission again, just to confirm we were not dreaming. It spoke in every tongue we knew, and 3 we didn't until this morning. We know you're watching us. We want to talk. The sentence hung there like a blade balanced on a whisper. How, someone asked, did they learn our languages? The answer, when it came, was colder than vacuum, from our crews. Fear rippled the tears. Ironclaw fists clenched. Void Watcher eyes narrowed to obsidian slivers. Even the collective's delegates, who claim not to feel, paused a half-beat too long. Then we magnified orbitals around the target world. Last month empty. This month, a station glinting with angles we recognized for all the wrong reasons. Ironclaw hardpoints, Vidian engine geometries, Void Watcher skin on panels that should never reflect. Not stolen parts, improved versions. This is impossible, an admiral said, the sentence already out of date. I marked 2 words in the margin. Pattern recognition. When predators stop understanding their prey, the ancient rules invert. Hunters become slow. Prey becomes a mirror. Vexar's voice steadied the room. We will hear sworn testimony. Everything classified is unsealed under emergency statute. The floor, iris opened. 3 witnesses waited in the well of light. The stealth captain who was seen, the hive operator whose living ships were taken alive, and an Ironclaw commander whose fleet did not return in one piece. I set my stylus to the page and drew a line under the day's title. The hall felt smaller than the darkness pressing on its crystal walls. Above us, the hologram of Earth revolved. Small, ordinary, unafraid. Begin, said the Prime, and the first witness lifted his eyes to the Council and said, They saw us coming 3 systems away. The first to step forward was Threes, captain of a Void Watcher stealth wing. His crest drooped low, scales dulled by the shame of survival. He carried himself like a shadow forced into light. I command ships designed never to be seen, he began. His voice grated, half snarled. Dark matter shrouds. Heat sinks colder than background radiation. We vanish against the void itself. No radar, no optics, no spectrum can trace us. He let the claim settle, as if daring the Council to deny it. None did. For centuries, Void Watchers were the galaxy's ghosts. Earth saw us, Thrick said simply. The words cracked the chamber like a whip. They tracked us long before we reached orbit. Not with exotic sensors, not with collective algorithms. He spat the word. With radar, with thermal, with physics so crude my ancestors would laugh. Murmur spilled across the tiers. Hive delegate chittered disbelief. The Ironclaw shifted uneasily. They watched us watching them, Thrick continued, voice rising. Every maneuver countered. Every silence answered. When we tried to slip away, they did not fire. They broadcast. The sentence appeared again in the chamber air, glowing across every wall. We know you're watching us. We want to talk. I fled, Threek admitted, shoulders sagging. Not from weapons, from the knowledge that our invisibility was nothing but theater in their sky. Silence pressed heavy. For the first time, the Void Watchers had no shadow left to hide in. I wrote a single word beneath his testimony. Detected. The Prime's gaze swept the chamber. Next witness, he ordered. The Hive's representative stepped forward, Keaton plates gleaming, multiple voices layered in one. And the collective would show us that humans were not content to merely see. They had learned to capture. The Hive delegate glided into the well of light, its form a lattice of chitin and tendrils. Where one voice should have spoken, three overlapped, discordant yet precise. The collective always spoke in chorus, every word calculated. "Our brood vessels are alive," they began, tones humming like wires under strain. "Grown in void hatcheries, fused to command minds, immune to capture. We do not lose them, we reclaim them, until Earth." A ripple moved through the chamber. "We released 6 brood ships near their orbit. Their nets should have burned against our hulls, their weapons should have killed our voices." The chorus faltered. For the first time, I thought I heard something alien to the Hive. Unease. They did not kill, they snared. Electromagnetic webs strung between orbital towers. A trap designed not to destroy, but to hold. And when our brood ships screamed, the humans did not silence them. The voices shifted faster, layered tighter. They studied, they mapped our neurofilaments. They pulled language from our resonance. They spoke to our brood, and the brood answered. Gasps echoed across the tiers. An Ironclaw slammed a claw against the railing, disbelief a cover for fear. They learned our tongue, the Hive continued, not in decades, not in years, in days. The chamber seemed to shrink. For the Hive, language was not data, it was identity. For humans to strip it bare so quickly was nothing less than violation. We demanded the return of our vessels. The voices dropped to a hiss. They replied with coordinates. When we arrived, we found not wreckage, not salvage, but copies. Their brood ships rebuilt in metal, faster, colder, no course inside, only silence that obeyed their commands. The Prime's crest twitched. A dozen elders murmured at once. I pressed the stylus harder into the ledger than I meant to, the word carving itself into the record. Replicated. The Hive retreated, plates clicking, voices scattered now, no longer seamless. And in their place, the Ironclaw commander advanced, armor scarred, fangs bared. If the Void Watchers had been seen, and the Hive had been captured, then the Ironclaw were here because they had been broken. The Ironclaw commander's steps cracked against the crystal floor. His armor still bore streaks of impact burns, claw marks across his own plating. A warrior who had fought and lived when an army had not. His mane bristled, fangs flashing as he spoke. "We brought 50 ships," he began, his voice a growl that made the hall vibrate. "Ironclaw warframes. Proven in 100 battles, against pirates, against raiders, against uprisings." He raised a scarred hand, claws curling. 50 ships entered their system. Not one returned intact. The chamber erupted. Shouts from the tiers, disbelief cascading like thunder. Council guards stamped pikes for order, but the commander roared over them. "Do you think I embellish? Look at me. I alone returned because they let me." His eyes burned gold. They wanted a witness. He strode to the center projection, slamming a claw against the display controls. The holomap bloomed with replays. Ironclaw cruisers charging, guns blazing, their formation tight. And then, human ships, patchwork at first glance but fast, cutting, sliding between volleys with movements Ironclaw captains had never seen. "They used our weapons," Yath snarled. "Stronger, sharper. They fired Ironclaw plasma through Vidian accelerators. They broke our shields with hive-bred disruption, grafted onto collective coding. Every technology we thought untouchable turned back on us, refined. One elder hissed, "This is fabrication." Yath's roar silenced him. Fabrication does not kill 47 crews. Fabrication does not burn scars into my flesh. Fabrication does not whisper their final words into my dreams. The holomap shifted. An image of the human flagship appeared, broad, angular, its hull a blend of alien geometries but undeniably human at the core. Across its side pulsed words translated into every tongue at once. Phase 1, complete. Begin preparations for Phase 2. The council chamber froze. Not a whisper, not a breath. Even the hive's chorus fell silent. I etched the last word of Act 1 into the ledger: escalation. The humans had stopped being prey. Beneath the mountains where satellite eyes could not peer, humanity built a silence louder than war. The chamber stretched for kilometers, steel ribs arcing overhead, gantries crossing like veins, the air thick with ozone and sparks. Alien hulls floated in scaffolds, not trophies, but templates. Engineers in grease-stained jackets argued over conduits while holograms bloomed across the air, layering Ironclaw targeting arrays over hive disruptors, stitching Vidian engines to Earthborn alloys. Dr. Lee Hyun walked the floor with a tablet in hand, every line of code etched across his glasses, every failure already calculated. He passed a captured hive pod. Once alive, now hollow, its organic frame wired with human processors. It pulsed faintly, obedient now to voices it had never known. General Martinez leaned against the railing, arms folded, the smell of dust and iron still clinging to his uniform. "How soon?" "Too soon," Lee replied, voice flat. "But necessity does not wait for perfection. Every scrap they threw at us we've turned into something sharper. We don't just copy, we translate." Screens flickered showing prototypes. An FTL core spliced from Vidian crystals, pulsing brighter than its makers ever achieved. Cannons built from Ironclaw plasma accelerators, firing tighter beams, cleaner burns. Hull plating that blended hive resonance fields with Earthborn steel. Captain Lee Jun stepped from the shadows, uniform unmarked, gaze cold with decision. "We can't wait for them to strike again," she said. "We move first, while they're still arguing in their halls." Baywan, chief of security, slammed a palm against the railing. 3 targets, simultaneous. If we fail, it ends here. If we succeed, they'll know we are not prey. The room hushed. The hum of machines filled the pause. Dr. Lee adjusted his glasses, voice steady as stone. "Then we divide the blade. Alpha, beta, gamma, 3 cuts, 3 lessons." And for the first time since Earth had been named primitive, humanity chose not to endure, but to strike. They called it reckless. They called it impossible. Humanity called it Tuesday. 3 raids launched under a single dawn, their ships sliding from orbit like blades drawn from a sheath. No fanfare, no announcement, just silence, and then fire. Alpha, strike Vidian Research Station. The station hung quiet against a pale star, bristling with crystalline towers that harvested energy like glass thorns. Vidian pride, thought untouchable. Human infiltrators cut through its perimeter with engines masked in stolen high frequencies. Where alarms should have screamed, there was only static. Doors opened at the wrong times. Turrets powered down mid-cycle. By the time Vidian guards realized, the core was already severed. Humanity took not resources but data, every design, every secret of their FTL crystals. The station floated intact but hollow. A husk. Beta strike Ironclaw. Forward outpost. This one was no whisper. 50 human ships dropped from slipstream into the heart of Ironclaw space, shields sparking, hulls braced. The Ironclaw roared, charging like wolves. Humans answered with precision. Ironclaw plasma met itself, reflected back by mirrored coils. Their formations broke against human traps, every tactic anticipated, countered, inverted. Where brute strength met innovation, strength bled out. The outpost burned, its banners torn down not by conquest but by proof. Warriors had been outthought. Gamma Strike Collective Hive Node. This battle was never fought in metal corridors. It was fought in silence, in whispers of code. Human cyber warriors unleashed a virus not to kill, but to confuse. Hive minds blinked out of rhythm, commands looping, signals colliding with echoes of themselves. For the first time in centuries, the collective stuttered. By the time they purged the intrusion, their sacred node pulsed with human fingerprints, their language infected with doubt. 3 raids, 3 messages, none subtle. Across the galaxy, broadcast lit the void. Not boasts, not apologies, just a single line in every language the Council had ever known. We are not primitives. We are equals. The chamber back on Earth fell silent. Generals exchanged looks. Scientists pressed trembling hands to consoles. Humanity had not only survived, they had carved their initials into the stars. The message spread faster than any fleet. Every relay, every frequency, every tongue. Screens on a dozen worlds flickered alive, filling markets, barracks, and throne rooms alike with a single line pulsing in white. We are not primitives. We are equals. The words burned brighter than fire. On Vidian worlds, crystalline towers dimmed as their counselors stared at the empty husk of their prized station. Pride cracked into silence. In Ironclaw arenas, warriors howled in rage, then stopped, unsettled, as footage replayed their ships destroyed by their own reflected fire. And in the hive nodes, voices stuttered, harmonies fractured, confusion echoing like a wound in their collective mind. Even in the farthest outposts, whispers began. Some in fear, some in awe. A species once dismissed as dirtwalkers had carved its mark in the void. In the Great Crystal Hall, the reaction was thunder. Delegates shouted across tiers, claws bared, wings flaring. Some demanded immediate retaliation, fleets to scour Earth clean. Others hissed warnings, pointing to the hollows of raids completed without total destruction. They could have slaughtered more, one elder whispered, but they chose restraint. Prime Vexar raised his crest for silence, but his eyes betrayed unease. No one had expected this. Not from Earth, not from a world still charted as a backwater. And yet, the evidence was undeniable. Ships gone, outposts burning, languages cracked open and spoken back. All done with weapons the Council had called impossible to wield together. The ledger in my hands trembled as I wrote the word that would outlast the uproar. Revealed. For centuries, the balance of the galaxy had been clear. Predators and prey, empires and servants. Now, a single world had stepped into the hall uninvited, carrying no permission but its own survival. And the question clawed its way through every delegate's mind. If this was only their beginning, what would their next move be? The Great Crystal Hall had never fallen to chaos like this. Wings flared, claws clashed against railings, hive delegates screeched out of rhythm. Everyone talked at once, fear and pride colliding like storms. Then the floor. Iris opened again. A new delegation stepped into the light. Not Vidian glass, not Ironclaw steel, not hive chitin, fabric, metal, human. Captain Li Jun led them, uniform pressed, stride unshaken, eyes calm as stone. Beside her walked Dr. Lim, holding a tablet alive with holographic streams, and Security Chief Baywan, broad-shouldered, gaze hard as drawn iron. The chamber fell silent. Even the hive's chorus skipped a beat. Li Jun's voice carried without amplification. You've heard rumors. You've lost fleets. You've watched footage. Now you'll hear from us directly. A dozen voices erupted in protest. "You stole our technology," hissed the Vidians. "You broke our fleets," roared the Iron Claw. Dr. Lim lifted her tablet. With a flick, the chamber filled with holograms. Schematics of Vidian engines, Iron Claw cannons, Hive disruptors, all overlaid with human modifications. Cleaner, stronger, faster. "We did not steal," Lim said evenly. "We improved." A shocked gasp rippled across the tiers. "Your perfect stealth," she continued, bringing up Void Watcher cloaks, "rendered visible with tools you abandoned as primitive. Your Hive harmonies, broken by algorithms you called childish. Your warrior tactics, predictable, mapped, inverted. What you dismiss as crude, we refined into weapons you could not anticipate." Baywan's voice cut through like steel. "You thought we would stay prey. You thought wrong." The silence that followed was heavier than any roar. The humans did not bow. They did not apologize. They stood in the very center of the galaxy's oldest chamber, and, for the first time, the Council felt what it was to be measured. The silence stretched until it felt like a weight on every chest in the chamber. Finally, a Vidian elder hissed through crystalline jaws. "You cannot speak to us as equals. You are primitives wearing stolen skins." Dr. Lim's response was merciless. With another flick of her tablet, new holograms flared. Battle replays, alien ships burning under human fire, captured nodes mapped in human code, outposts cracked like eggs. "If primitives did this," she said coldly, "what does that make you?" Gasps echoed. The Ironclaw delegates bared their fangs but offered no retort. The Hive chorus attempted harmony, but their voices faltered, offbeat, still shaken by the virus humanity had sown. Captain Li Jun stepped forward, her shadow cutting across the chamber floor. "We didn't come here for conquest," she said. "We came for clarity. You will not cage us. You will not dissect us. You will not call us dirt walkers and expect obedience." Her words struck harder than weapons. "We offered trade," she continued, "exchange, partnership. But if you insist on treating us as prey—" Her gaze swept the tiers, hard as iron. "Then know this. We answer in kind." Baywan's voice rolled in behind hers like thunder. "You've seen what we do with scraps. Imagine what we'll do with a fair seat at the table." The council rippled with fear and fury. Some shouted for war, others hissed warnings. A few, very few, sat silent, calculating, their eyes no longer dismissive but cautious, respectful. And in the ledger, I carved one word into history: choice. For the first time in the age of the Council, the Predators had been given an ultimatum. Not by an empire, not by an ancient race, but by the species they had thought beneath notice. Humanity had dragged the galaxy to a crossroads: trade or war. The Council chamber did not adjourn so much as fracture. Vidians whispered in brittle tones, their crystalline crests dimmed with fear. Iron Claw delegates stormed out, claws raking the railings in frustration. The Hive chorus fell into dissonance, voices unable to recover their sacred rhythm. But some remained seated, watching, calculating. For the first time, they were not looking at prey. They were looking at rivals. I closed my ledger and wrote the final word: shift. Because that was what had happened. A shift in the gravity of power, a shift in the way the galaxy would speak of Earth, not as a footnote, but as a force. Outside, broadcasts still ran on endless loops. We are not primitives. We are equals. The words glowed over markets, over shipyards, over academies where young warriors and scholars alike whispered them as prophecy. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of earned respect had begun. And as I left the hall, The image of that small blue world followed me. Ordinary in size, unremarkable in placement, yet extraordinary in its defiance. Humans had not waited for permission. They had taken their place at the table with the only currency the galaxy respected: survival sharpened into strength. Insane, the elders would call them. Reckless, dangerous, unpredictable. But I knew better. They were the storm that no one had seen coming. And from this day forward, no council in the galaxy would ever plan without whispering their name: humanity. The last hollow projection of Earth flickered above the council chamber, its blue oceans and white storms rotating in silence. Delegates filed out in fragments, some muttering threats, others whispering concessions. The hall, once a fortress of order, now felt fragile, like glass stretched too thin. I lingered. One last line carved itself into my ledger before I closed it for good. They told me to observe humans. Instead, I survived because of them. The words would haunt the council. They would inspire whispers in the outer colonies, and they would echo, unstoppable, across the stars. If this story struck you, remember, this is only one of countless tales where humanity refuses to bow. This is HFY Stories Pulse. Subscribe, share, and join me again for more chronicles of defiance, survival, and the storm called humanity. Because in the cold dark of space, one truth will always remain. Humans don't just endure. They change the game.